In the architecture of a home, there is no structural failure more absolute than paternity fraud. It is the most feared allegation in modern society. In Nigeria, 1 out of 4 of every paternity test result came back negative, the worst in the world. Well, except when you think of Jamaica. Statistics like these do not remain statistics. They become suspicious. They become whispers. They become fractures. It begins quietly, a delayed resemblance, a comment from a relative, a private doubt. And once doubt appears, there is only one solution society trusts: DNA testing. When uncertainty enters a home, science is summoned like a judge. The result is expected to do one thing: end the argument. Because DNA does not lie, or so we believe. This is the story of Augustine and Human Saint Patrick, a family that nearly collapsed, not because of a secret affair, not because of infidelity, but because an innocent woman was accused using evidence that was 100% correct, yet 100% wrong. When May, their daughter, was born, it was joy. There was no controversy. Until half a decade later. A routine medical test, a blood mismatch, an inconsistency no one could explain. So they ran a paternity test. 0% match. They ran it again. 0%. They ran 5 independent tests, all negative. The conclusion seemed obvious, except for one lingering detail. May is a carbon copy of Augustine. Same eyes, same posture, same laugh. But genetics does not care about resemblance. 50% means father, 0% means stranger. And yet, something didn't fit. The result was expanded. The child did not match him as a father, but she matched him at 25%. 25% is not random. 25% means one thing: uncle, which introduced a new allegation. If Augustine was not the father, then perhaps his brother was. But Augustine was the only son of his parents. In search of answers, their home eroded. Silence replaced conversation. Suspicion replaced memory. Trust became conditional. The science was settled. The sanctuary was gone. To understand what happened next, we need to understand what a DNA test actually measures. A child inherits half of their genetic material from each biological parent. That 50% is not symbolic. It is mathematical. But DNA tests do not measure fatherhood. They measure genetic similarity between 2 samples, and they assume something very important: that you are one, that every cell in your body carries the same DNA. But is that a universal law or just a common occurrence? Further testing revealed something extraordinary. As expected, the DNA in Augustine's cheek swab matches those found in his blood, but neither matched the DNA found in his reproductive cells. The man who raised May was not genetically identical to the man who fathered her. He was both and neither. Before Augustine was born, he was not alone. In the earliest weeks of pregnancy, 2 embryos began to form, twins, but only one child was delivered. The other did not disappear. It was absorbed, its cells integrated, its DNA persisted. Augustine grew up unaware that his body carried 2 genetic identities, 2 blueprints, 2 biological authors. He was the brother of a ghost, a walking graveyard. Most of his body expressed one genome, but parts of him, including the cells that produced sperm, carried the other. So when the child was conceived, she inherited DNA from the twin that never lived. To a standard paternity test, that DNA belonged to someone else. The result was not false, it was incomplete. The truth isn't hidden, it's missing from the explanation. This condition is called chimerism, a genetic fusion of 2 individuals into one organism, named after the mythological chimera, a creature composed of multiple beings. It is rare, but it is real, and it breaks one of our deepest assumptions, that identity is singular. We imagine ourselves as coherent units, one body, one genome, one self. But biology does not respect philosophical neatness. Cells migrate, DNA persists, embryos merge. The body is not a monologue, it is a collaboration. Sometimes a conflict, sometimes an archive. The individual is a myth, and this is not an isolated phenomenon. Cases have emerged where mothers failed maternity tests, where organ transplant recipients temporarily carried donor DNA, where bone marrow transplants altered forensic profiles. Science knows this, but society does not. So when a test returns 0%, society fills in the rest. Cheat, betrayal, infidelity, liar. We are weaponizing genetics, reducing complex biology to courtroom certainty, turning probability into allegation. The Saint Patricks were not victims of deception. They were victims of simplification. The test did exactly what it was designed to do, but it was designed with assumptions, and assumptions can fracture homes. Legal systems treat DNA as gold standard evidence. Hospitals treat it as definitive. Families treat it as final. But science is not infallible. It is conditional. DNA testing works extraordinarily well when the assumption holds. When it does not, the result remains technically correct but socially catastrophic. Because no one is trained to look for the anomaly. No one thinks to ask, is there another biological explanation? And so the allegation stands, clean, clinical, data-backed. Before the second test is even run, the Twitter gavel has already fallen. In the court of public opinion, a data point is a death sentence. An innocent woman nearly lost her marriage, not because of betrayal, but because the framework was too narrow. This is the danger of certainty, not that it lies, but that it ends inquiry. The Saint Patricks reconciled, eventually, after advanced genetic analysis confirmed the presence of dual genomes. But many families never reach that point, because most people never discover the ghost. Most people never run deeper sequencing. Most people never suspect that the blueprint itself may be plural. And so we return to the question, what if a DNA test tells the truth, but not the whole truth? The collapse of this family was not caused by infidelity. It was caused by an assumption that one body equals one genome. But biology is stranger than allegation, stranger than suspicion, stranger than certainty. Sometimes the evidence is real, the conclusion is logical, and the allegation is still wrong. Because the truth was never absent, it was simply incomplete.